I'd like to welcome everyone. Being 5 o'clock, I'm going to call the meeting to order. And I'd like to acknowledge that we're on Treaty 6 land, the home of the Métis, and I'll ask everyone to rise and the city clerk to say the prayer.
O God, let us each in our own way ask your wisdom and guidance in our deliberations. Help us to incorporate into all our decisions those values which will enable us to fulfill our mission, to act as responsible stewards, and to respect and value the cultural and spiritual tradition of all citizens of the City of Prince Albert. For this we pray. Amen.
Thank you. Number 3, approval of the agenda. City clerk, is there any additions or changes to the agenda?
Mayor, we have the addition of the correspondence that's placed on your desk, requesting to be added for with 17.1.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Edwards.
Thanks, Mayor Dion. I do have some concerns about the proposed agenda today.
Oh,
I'm going to move a motion.
okay.
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 If I move the current agenda, then it's as is. That's not what I want.
Correct. No, he can add the addition without a seconder. Go ahead, sir. Just make the motion.
Okay. I move that council will meet, sorry, I'm not feeling well today. I move that council will move to meet in camera after the public forum section in the draft agenda circulated. That's A. B. Councillor Lennox Zepp's labor relations motion on the draft agenda, item 17.1, dealing with the union contract negotiations, be moved to be addressed in the in-camera portion of the meeting.
Mm-hmm.
C. Correspondence received from Mike Henry, which is on our desk, be placed on the agenda for consideration in the in-camera portion of the meeting. And D. The draft agenda circulated with these revisions be approved. If I get a second on it, I'll speak to it.
Okay, thank you. Seconder? Councillor Broderick?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll second the motion and I'll speak as well after of why I'm seconding this motion.
Okay, so I'll go back to you, Councillor Edwards.
Okay, thank you. So just a few quick notes with regards to this motion. Item 7.1 on the agenda, Councillor Lennox Zepp has given notice of motion that she wants us to discuss in public that deals very clearly with union contract negotiations. That raises for me some questions that as a councillor elected to serve the interests of our residents and taxpayers that I need to ask administration before I vote to give instructions on contract negotiations and labor relations. As city councillors, we have to remember that we are entrusted to negotiate with the taxpayers' interests in mind. We are negotiating with our taxpayers' money. Councillor Lennox Zepp knows that labor relation matters are for good reason legislated to be discussed and decided in camera. Confidential from the union and not in public. The legislation in this way protects the interests of the city as an employer, protecting the interests of its taxpayers whose money we are negotiating with. The legislation gives the city and the taxpayers the rights as the union does not and is not required to provide its advice or negotiating strategies or receive instructions from its members at public meetings or in front of the employer. Councillor Lennox Zepp's husband is a QP national rep for 882 and for other city QP unions. And as a result, her motion to ignore those taxpayers' protection creates certain obvious concerns. I need to ask our administration questions to clarify advice on the implications of Councillor Lennox Zepp's motion for contract negotiations and labor relations. In particular, I need this labor relations advice before I'm asked by the spouse of CUPE's rep to provide a contract negotiation, instruction, administration without the usual employer and taxpayer protection. All such advice is supported to be provided to council confidential from the union, not in public forum, so that the union oversteps those negotiation protections. We have a legislative responsibility to our taxpayers to receive advice and have these discussions confidential from the union. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor Brodnick?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I'm seconding the motion because I believe that this notice of motion 17.1 is out of order. It is clearly a issue that needs to be discussed in camera. Can you hear? Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, it needs to be discussed in camera, and as Councillor Edwards mentioned, we are here representing the taxpayers, residents of Prince Albert, and yes, CUPE members are residents, I get that. However, we are here to make sure that we spend the taxpayer money wisely, and we all took an oath, and I think that it's our responsibility to make sure that any issues with respect to contracts, land, etc., be discussed in camera. And therefore, this motion, I think, is totally out of order, and it needs to be pulled off this public agenda. And then whatever we discuss in camera, then of course that comes to the public. And all contracts, all union negotiations, etc., all becomes public knowledge after it's discussed in camera first. And that protects the city and will protect our people that are negotiating these contracts on behalf of the city and the residents of the city, and it won't lead to further complications of this already situation that we're in. And so I support the motion and feel that it too is, like I said, it's totally out of order, and it needs to go in camera first, and then, as I said, at our next council meeting, then whatever will go to the public agenda and be discussed further. So thank you for the time.
Thank you. Councillor Lennox.
So I'm going to address 2 points. One is what items need to be in camera and what don't. And of course, Lafoy guides us in what matters can be in camera. There are many matters that can't. We can't just put any matter in camera. That must meet the criteria. And one of those criteria is internal negotiations. Now, is my motion that's proposed to schedule a bargaining meeting between two parties, is that internal negotiations? Of course not. No. That's to schedule a meeting. Now, if my motion was that we need to negotiate and have a certain resolution, probably would not be a public motion. But if you review the motion is that administration schedule a bargaining meeting with CUPE 882. Is that something that we can debate publicly? Is it appropriate to debate publicly? Of course it is, because it's a governance issue. As governance, we do have a responsibility to provide direction in our corporation. And sometimes those are hard questions. Sometimes the votes are difficult. Sometimes they're hard questions on our desks, and that's okay, and we don't have to be afraid of the public. We don't have to be afraid of debating things publicly at all. On the topic of obtaining legal advice on this issue, certainly legal advice could have been obtained 3 weeks ago when I made the notice of motion on the topic. So I would urge this council that we should not fear discussing this publicly in front of our workers, in front of the public, in front of taxpayers, that none of us should fear that, and that this motion is very properly before us and should be heard. Thank you.
Councillor Brodnick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not afraid to discuss anything publicly. Never have and never will. But what's key about this is inappropriate. You said that your motion says to schedule a meeting. It's more than schedule a meeting. It also says to discuss all outstanding issues. Okay, so here we're gonna publicly start deciding what are the outstanding issues, et cetera. Well, that's what your motion says.
Okay.
And so to say that we're fearful of discussing issues or anything publicly, that's just not true. You're making a statement and accusing some of us of not wanting to discuss things publicly. I'm very much open to discuss all kinds of things. I've been called all kinds of things on social media by people and having the union like it. I've been called a nerdy little bastard, and the union liked it. And so you know, these are the issues that is inappropriate. And so therefore, do we want to get into all this bashing and all this? No, publicly. This should be done privately, in camera, like all of our other issues. Whenever we have issues that come up with contracts, with employment, with work, we discuss it privately. So that it's not, everybody doesn't need to hear all the public doesn't need to hear all of the issues and the things that perhaps people did or didn't do. And that's why I'm saying this is inappropriate. This issue, this motion is totally inappropriate. And that's why I'm supporting Councillor Edwards' motion, and I ask the rest of council to support this motion. And we will have a good, frank discussion. And as I said, it will then go public. The result of this discussion will go public, but not all of the details of what is said. And so therefore, Councillor, I sometimes agree with you, I sometimes disagree with you, and this time I disagree with you, Councillor.
Councillor Kilmer.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I too support this motion, and for this reason, that the implication in the motion implies that the people that we have entrusted to the one person that we have hired and that has put people in place to negotiate have not heard or been part of or are not negotiating. And so I think it's very important for us to go in camera and discuss things very openly so that we all have a good understanding of what each of us feels, and then make a decision based on that. It needs to be in camera.
Okay, I'm prompting the question.
May I read the motion before we vote?
Okay, let's count it up. I'll get it ready to vote still as she reads it. Okay, questions now open. And the motion carries.
Shameful, absolutely shameful.
All right, sir, you can leave the gallery.
Shameful, absolutely shameful behavior.
Leave the gallery.
This is public for taxpayers.
Leave the gallery.
Shameful behavior.
Okay, we'll move to the next item, with his presentations that we have none. Number 5, declaration of conflict of interest. You all know one of those. If you have a conflict, you have to declare it, tell the city clerk. Number 6. Pardon me? Oh, conflict, sorry.
Thank you. I have a conflict for item number 8.2, the bylaw number 22 of 2023, addition of funeral homes as a discretionary development office use. My husband works for a funeral home.
Thank you. Councillor, let me go. Hold it. Councillor Lennox, no, sorry, Councillor Miller, because Councillor Zepp, then Councillor Cody.
Thank you, Mayor Dion. I have a conflict on 11.4 vacated residential lots program. I do own a residential empty lot.
Councillor Zepp?
Thank you. I declare conflict on the last item, 17.3, the motion from Councillor Edwards, victim impact statements due to my employment with Saskatchewan Legal Aid.
Thank you. Councillor Cody?
Yes, Your Worship, I declare a conflict as well under public hearings 8.2, addition of funeral homes. As you know, I work for Memorial Gardens and 2 funeral homes, Grays and River Park, and so as a result, I want to be excused.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now we'll move on. Adoptions of the minutes, 6.1. Councillor Miller?
Thank you, Mayor Dion. That the minutes of the council regular meeting held October 16th, 2023 be taken, read, and adopted.
Thank you. Seconder? Councillor Kilmer?
We'll second it.
Thank you. I'll prompt the question. Approval of the minutes. Questions now open. And carried. Thank you. Notice of proclamations. I had 4 since the last time I reported. 7.1 Economic Abuse Awareness Day, November 26, 2023. Number 2, Saskatchewan Multicultural Week, November 18th to the 26th. Number 3, Adoption Awareness Month, November of 23. Number 4, American and Canadian Lung Cancer Screening Incentive Month, November of 2023. Those are my proclamations. So today we have 2 public hearings. So I'll open the number 1 public hearing. I'm opening a public hearing to zoning number 20 of 23, rezoning portion of parcel J from future urban development zoning district to R4 zoning district. This is for second and third reading. Is there anyone in the gallery that's here to speak on that item? Seeing no one approaching, I will go with the comments then from the Director of Planning. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, members of council. I'm pleased to recommend approval of second and third reading to bylaw number 20 of 2023 this evening. This is in regards to a rezoning of a parcel J located in the West Hill area of Prince Albert. It's a 1.5 acre parcel that's getting rezoned from future urban development to R4 high density development to accommodate more residential development in our city. We've done public notice. We haven't received any public opposition, and therefore, again, we are recommending approval this evening. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And with no further comments on this, I will close the public hearing, and I'll go to council. What is your wish? Councillor Kilmer.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that the bylaw number 20 of 2023 be given a second and third reading.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Miller.
I'll second, Mayor Dion.
Thank you. Any further comments? None. I'll prompt the question. Questions now open. And carried. Thank you. City Clerk.
Mayor, we have bylaw number 20 of 2023 to amend the zoning bylaw to rezone the northwest corner of parcel J in the West Hill area from future urban development to R4 high-density residential. This bylaw is for second and third reading today.
Thank you. Councillor Kilmer.
I'll move that bylaw number 20 of 2023 be read a second time.
Thank you. Councillor Miller.
I'll second, Mayor Dion.
Thank you. I'll prompt the question. The question's now open. We're missing a vote. Okay, carried. Who didn't vote? Councillor Kilmer?
Thank you, Mayor. That bylaw number 20 of 2023 be read a third time and passed, and that bylaw number 20 of 2023 be now adopted, sealed, and signed by the mayor and city clerk.
Thank you. Councillor Miller?
I'll second Mayor Dion.
Thank you. And I'll prompt the question. Question's now open and carried. Thank you. Now, I'll open the second public hearing of the evening. And that, oh, I'll let you guys go. Excuse you. You're welcome. Thank you. Sorry. Okay, I'll open the second public hearing, which is in addition to funeral homes as a discretionary use in M3 zonings. Is there anyone in the gallery that would like to speak to this item? Hearing none, I'll go to the Director of Public Works. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. That's okay. Bylaw 22 of 2023 is in regards to the addition of a new use in our M3 light industrial district, being funeral home services. We are recommending approval of adding it as a discretionary development officer use within that zoning district. Essentially what that means is that it requires a development permit and that we are able to approve it as administration. We've moved ahead with public notification and we've not received any opposition to this matter, as a funeral home is a very low impact use within a light industrial zoning district. We are recommending approval of second and third reading this evening.
Thank you very much. And so I will now close the public hearing and I'll go to council. What's your wish? Councillor Edwards.
I'll move that bylaw number 22 of 2023 be given second and third readings.
Thank you. Councillor Head.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll second that.
Thank you. I'll prompt the question. Oh, no one in the queue? Discussion? I got it. Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Mayor Dion. I was just wondering if there's going to be a crematorium going in as well, or is it just a funeral home situation?
Director of Planning.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Miller, for the question. The application right now is just for the rezoning. We don't have a development permit application with the details of the operation. When we do, that will be considered separately from the zoning bylaw amendment. However, that being said, funeral homes are allowed to have cremation services as well, but they are to be considered differently than a standalone cremation or crematorium. So although they may allow cremation, it's not able to be a standalone business.
So it'll be brought up when if and when
Correct.
the funeral home
Exactly.
wants one.
Exactly.
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
Yeah, so it comes back to us. Okay, any other? No? So I'll prompt the question. Questions now open. And carried. City Clerk.
Mayor, we have bylaw number 22 of 2023 to amend the zoning bylaw to include funeral homes as a discretionary use of the development officer in the M3 large lot light industrial zoning district. This bylaw is for second and third reading today.
Thank you. Councillor Edwards.
Also move the bylaw number 22 of 2023 be read a second time.
Thank you. Councillor Head.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll second that.
Thank you. I'll prompt the question. The question is now open and carried. Councillor Edwards.
Also move that bylaw number 22 of 2023 be read a third time and passed, and that bylaw number 22 of 2023 be now adopted, sealed, and signed by the mayor and city clerk.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Head.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll second that.
Thank you. Any final discussion before I prompt the final question? Thank you. I see none. I'll prompt the question. Questions now open. And the motion carries. Thank you. Councillor Head, could you ask the other two to come in, please? Thank you. Okay, delegations, we have none today. Number 10, communications, we have none today. Number 11, reports of administration and committees. 11.1, Byers Street Director. Are you speaking on this, or we're just, nope, just going ahead, okay? You, okay? Councillor Brodnick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll move that the following bylaws be introduced and given first reading. A, bylaw number 24 of 2023, B, bylaw number 25 of 2023, and C, bylaw number 26 of 2023, and that number 2, that the administration provide notification to hold a public hearing.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Head.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm going to second this motion. I also have a comment as well.
Okay, go ahead.
No, and I know this is a kind of highlight sign of the slow-moving wheel of democracy, and it's taken a long time to get here, well over 2 years to get this annexation done. I know we have another one in the works, but I guess I just want to point out, and I think there's a good learning opportunity here, because we see some of our lots described within our minutes quite regularly, but this is one from the provincial government describing some of the lots and the lands that we've taken over. I thought I'd point out, talking about the portion known as Betts land, that this is the original Prince Albert settlement, talks about the road allowance, and where I've seen this language before is in treaty negotiations, treaty documents, and how they're surveyed in the lands given our proclaimed to reserves and First Nations people. But I just thought it was interesting to note that this is written exactly the same way, and it's about time that we got this done. So,
Okay, thank you. Councillor Brodnick, go ahead.
Thank you, and I'll just speak very briefly on this.
Go ahead.
This is the land that's east of Crescent Acres, and city owns it already, and it's just being annexed into the city of Prince Albert. And the long-term plan is to build 21st Avenue, which will eventually go from Highway 302 to Marcus Road, and we'll have basically a loop around the city. Or not completely around the city because we have rivers there, but it'll really ease people moving from east side of the city to the west side of the city. So it's a step in the right direction. And then off this 21st Avenue, it'll connect to Byers Street Avenue, and then I forget the second and the third one, but it'll connect into Crescent Acres, which will ease traffic congestion at 15th Avenue and Muzzy Road, and that is a really bad intersection, and so that's the idea, that all of North Crescent Acres will eventually be able to take this 21st Avenue on Highway 302, and so it'll ease up a lot of the traffic congestion at that particular intersection. So it's a step in the right direction. The plan is there, and I'm happy to move this motion and see that we're moving forward in helping the traffic congestion along 15th Avenue by annexing this land and then eventually building 21st Avenue east through Ward 5 and through Ward 6. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I'll also be supporting the motion strictly. I live in that area, and there's only Muzzy and Olive Diefenbaker at that end of the district to come. And that's where the city has 65 new lots to develop. So the area is going to grow. So we're going to need to take some of the pressure off those two main roads to get in and out. Because you can actually say at 5 o'clock, we actually get a little bit of a traffic jam on those two streets. And it's just to make it easier for residents to get home and get out, and safer for our community. So I'll also be supporting that. And I see no one else in the queue, so I'll prompt the question. The question is now open. And carried. Thank you. 11.2, downtown business. Oh,
reading.
sorry, forgot the city clerk. Hey, are there three or one?
I'm just going to say it once.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Thank you. City
Mayor, we
clerk.
have bylaw number 24 of 2023 to amend the district official community plan land maps, and bylaw number 25 of 2023 to amend the city's official community plan schedules, and bylaw number 26 of 2023 to amend the zoning bylaw to include the Byers Street annexation area within city limits and rezone the land as future urban development. These bylaws are for first reading only.
Thank you. Councillor Brodnick.
Okay. Well,
Oh, she'll get it.
we need the motion. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll move that bylaw number 24, of 2023 be introduced and read a first time.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Head.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll second that.
Thank you very much. Any discussion? I see no one in the queue, so I'll prompt the question. Question is now open. And carried. Is that it? Okay, thank you very much. Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll move that bylaw number 25 of 2023 be introduced and read a first time.
thank you. Seconder? Councillor Head?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll second that, yes.
Thank you. I'll prompt the question. Question is now open. And carried. Councillor Bartek.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll move that bylaw number 26 of 2023 be introduced and read a first time.
Councillor Ed.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll second that, yes.
Thank you. I'll prompt the question.
That's it, eh?
Question is now open. And carried. Thank you. That's it for things. 11.2, downtown business incentive. Councilor Kilmer.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that the Downtown Business Incentive Program be approved.
Thank you. Councilor Bodnick.
I'll second the motion, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Comments, Councilor Zepp.
I just wanted to thank the Prince Albert Downtown Business Improvement District for bringing incentives like this one to us. It all goes along with our efforts for infill and to have businesses populating our downtown and have a beautiful place where people enjoy going and want to be. And so this is a positive. Thank you.
Thank you. No. So I'll prompt the question. Motion carries. Thank you. 11.3, Seniors Development Levy Agreement. Councilor Edwards.
Also move that the development levy agreement between the city and Signature Development Corp. For the area known as the Yard District be approved. 2, that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to execute the agreement on behalf of the city.
Thank you. Councilor Cody.
Yes, Your Worship, I'll second that.
Thank you. I see no. Oh. Councilor Zepp.
Thank you. I have some questions for the director. Can you remind us, development levy agreement? So first question, what are these funds intended to be used for?
Go ahead.
Thank you, Councillor Lennox, for the question. Essentially, development levies are put into a bank account to be used for future infrastructure. So that could be anything for between pipes in the ground to city utilities to city buildings. It is all placed in one large bank account, and then over time that money is distributed appropriately.
Used anywhere within the city, it's not specific to this geographical area.
Not necessarily. Development levies as a whole are placed into an account. If they are to be associated with a specific area, that is well within our authority to do. But our development levy account currently has money in it, and that's been used all over the city in the past.
And why would we as a city implement development levies?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Development levies are used to recover the impact of infrastructure over time. So you can use that money to recover costs of the wear and tear on city infrastructure, or to potentially pay for new infrastructure as well.
And so I'm going to tell you the question, and then my kind of details before I could perhaps go to the answer. I'm going to ask about how we come to a formula of this certain dollar amount to levy, and shouldn't it be more? Don't we as a city require more? And the details I want to provide are, we as a city have made a determination to build city infrastructure and to allow subdivision of land for businesses to be in an area where we had to pipe new water lines in, we had to put new asphalt down. It wasn't an infill. It wasn't in an area of the city where we already had that infrastructure existing, and that came at a great cost to the city. And so shouldn't we be charging more for development levies because we have put more resources into this decision?
Thank you for the question. It's a great question. Development levies are typically calculated based on a research study. We did ours back in 2011. It has gone up every year by a number associated with what's called with an industrial product price index. To simplify it, we basically calculate all future infrastructure projects, add them all up, identify how many acreage of the city still needs to be developed, and then we basically divide it by that large number. And what we landed on was about 122, well, it's now inflated over the course of time, but we're at about $122,000 per acre. So that number was based on a calculation of the sum of all projects in the city, and that number is typically revisited every 5 years or so.
So this development levy uses the same formula as a development levy that's not in this geographical location with new piping, new asphalt.
Correct, yes.
So I call on members of council to consider an increase to the levy that's proposed here, and the reason being that that we should not be billing the same development levy for a brand new area where we needed new infrastructure to go to, that we should be suggesting a higher development levy so that we can continue the maintenance that will be required, all those pipes in the ground, all that asphalt that we as a city will have to operate. Thank you.
Just a follow-up question to you for clarity, if you could put your light back on. So you're talking about the yard, or are you just talking about the city in general?
So my comments are specific to this motion. This is development
Okay.
levy agreement specifically with Signature Developments. That's
We
all.
didn't put the infrastructure in. They did. So that's why I questioned where you're asking. I agree with you. If we put it all in, we should get it back.
And who
But,
needs to maintain those pipes in the ground after they're in?
at some point, we will in a
Yes.
couple more years when they give it to us.
So I take your point, Mayor. However, we as a city have to maintain those pipes, and that's what I heard being stated, that we have to have development levies so that we can continue maintenance for infrastructure ongoing for, as long as we want these pipes and these roads and these asphalt.
Okay. Councillor Brodnick?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I just wanted to make that point that when we purchased the land in the Yard District, we were accused of all kinds of stuff, that we overpaid and on and on and on for this land. But people forget that the land that we purchased included exactly what you're talking about. All the infrastructure, all the landscaping, the curbs, the sidewalks, the trees, the grass. They even actually have the rotary trail going into there, and it's not paved yet, but it'll be paved by next summer, which again is all paid for by Signature Developments is doing all of that, and that's what we paid for when we paid for that land to build the twin pads and the aquatic center. And I noticed that there's a sign just south of the Yard District along Marcus Road where the land is being sold for $83,000 an acre. And we paid $362 an acre, fully developed, fully done. And so that's a heck of a deal, I think, that the city got for that land when you consider what's happening just to the south of that land. And Councillor, if your first statement was correct, then yeah, we should be paying a higher levy. But right now, I don't think your first statement wasn't correct that you made about this. And so therefore, I think this is reasonable to be paying this kind of levy on already developed land. We didn't have to pay for the infrastructure that you had originally stated. And so to maintain, it will be the city will be maintaining that. There's no doubt about it. But that's like in any development of the city, anywhere in the city has to maintain the roads, the sidewalks, cut the trees, prune the trees, etc. That's what taxes go for, and in this case, that's what the levy is going to be collected in this particular Yard District. So it's a good deal that we got for this. So I just wanted to correct you on your original statement that we should be paying more because we had to pay for all this. We didn't pay for it.
Councillor Head.
Thank you, Your Worship. I too had similar questions. I've been asked, does this agreement, these payments cover the cost of the loans that we've incurred? No, they do not. They're a far cry from those payments. We're looking at budgeting this year for principal payments, just about $700,000, and on
Whoa. What does payments have to do with the subject of infrastructure? You keep on the story. We're talking, approving development permits, not redebating, and we're not debating the financing. So stick to the subject, please.
So I am. I'm talking about this agreement specifically. I'm looking at the numbers that has been so proudly produced. $4.8 million in development levy payments in the next 6 years is what we're seeing in this report. So looking at the understanding that these should be counterbalancing some of our payments and loans that we've incurred, and is the perception in the community. So I've been asked about, does these levies that we're collecting today, does it cover our loans that we've incurred today? No, they don't. So I just want to make that clear, to make a comment that our principal and loan payments are almost to the tune
Okay,
of
do you have
over $2
information
million.
that hasn't been supplied to us?
Sorry?
Do you have a different report? That I don't have that on my report, so that's why I'm questioning you.
I just know that these are our payments, looking at some of our loans that we've incurred as a
Okay.
state, so I'm aware of what we're paying back to these loans.
I'm rising on a point of order.
Go ahead.
Councillor Ogrodnik spoke about the cost of land nearby, neighboring land. Councillor Ogrodnik spoke about the background of the purchase of this land. I want to make a point of order that there's no reason that Councillor Head shouldn't also.
And
be
I
able to
agree with
speak
your
about
statement
pricing.
100%. He did never once talk about financing. I'm very careful on that. He did not say financing. He's talking about loan payments. That has nothing to do with what you talked about and Councillor Botnick talked about, and the subject is infrastructure and development permits. So go ahead, Councillor Head.
To the director, I guess, then, does these levies that we're collecting at $680,847, and this year it's only $360, do they cover the payment plans that we have on these two loans for this building?
Go ahead, Director.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Head, for the question. In preparation for this report, bringing it to you, I focused on the terms of the agreement and the amount of development levies to be paid. Unfortunately, I'm not in a position to speak to financing or what that money goes towards. I'm simply not prepared to answer that response this evening.
Was there someone in here that can answer why, or who negotiated this contract, and why did we land on the levies that we did? I know there's a formula that we used, it was kind of discussed already, but is there another reason why we didn't have these levies at a higher rate?
Go ahead, Director.
Thank you, Mayor, for the question. Thank you, Councillor Head, for the follow-up question. The development levy rates are established through a bylaw. So those, the bylaw itself say that the rates can be paid at the time of subdivision, at the time of development, so when construction occurs, or through a development levy agreement, such as what you're considering this evening. So I work closely with, as a group, with our solicitor and the city manager, and that is how we came up with the agreement in front of you this evening. But the actual number, that is established through bylaw.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Bodnick?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Follow up.
Councillor Lennox-Epp, I respect your right to rise on a point of order, point of personal privilege, or point of information. My comments were directed to correct some misinformation that was given by you, and that's what I was doing. And so I was talking about how our 362,000 included all of this stuff that you said that we had to pay for. We didn't have to pay for it. We paid for it in the 362,000. That's what my point. And so therefore, I think my comments were in order, were not out of order in this discussion. And because I should have maybe rose on a point of information and then corrected your misinformation rather than just making comments, but I was trying to be a little bit more polite and not do that, but I just did that now, so I apologize if I'm being disrespectful to you, Councillor. But I had to correct you. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Zapp?
Thank you. So, question being, two members of council tonight have stated that we as a city did not pay for the piping infrastructure to go into this land. I want to ask that question to our director. Director, when we purchased this land, the Yard District Signature Developments area, did we as a city, did we pay for just raw land, or did we pay money that included servicing to put pipes into the ground? Did we as a city pay for those pipes to go in?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Lennox-Epp, for the question. So our land
Hold it. I'm going to allow the question, but now you're talking about the purchase.
Just only
Okay, so
because-
explain, that's why I'm trying to keep on track so we can get done tonight.
So I
Okay?
would like to have accurate information. Two members of council tonight have said, city didn't pay for pipes in the ground to go, so we don't need to increase this levy. We didn't pay for that, there was no
Okay.
cost. Was
Go
there
ahead.
a cost to the city to put pipes in the ground?
Hold. No, quiet, please, order. Yeah, go ahead, Director.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for the question. Our land came fully serviced.
And we paid to have the servicing completed, correct?
That servicing was already completed and
Yes, and
included
it's in the price.
Okay, we're done. Thank you, Director.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Zapp. No, don't, please, order. Okay, I'm going to prompt the question. Questions open. And it carried. Thank you. 11.4, Councillor Miller. You're welcome. Sorry. 11.4, vacant residential lot program. What's councillor's wish? Councillor Cody.
Yes, Your Worship, I move that the vacant lot residential lot program be approved.
Thank you. Councillor Solomon.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll second that motion, please.
Thank you. Any questions? I see no one in the queue, so I'll prompt the question. Questions now open. And carried. Could you, Councillor Ed, do you mind getting? Okay. Okay, we're moving on to 11.5, SaskTel Communications Tower. Councillor Cody.
Yes, Your Worship, I agree with recommendation, and I move that the following three proposed locations for the new communications towers be supported in principle. 1, adjacent to rear lane near 12th Street West, 2, 28th Street East near the drainage channel, and 3, 7th Avenue East adjacent to Cook Municipal Golf Course.
Thank you. Seconder? Councillor Bodnick?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll second the motion and just quickly speak on that.
Yes, go ahead, and then
Yeah.
I'll go to you, Councillor Head. Sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, this is we're supporting it in principle, and SaskTel is going to do public hearings on all of this, and so it'll be fully vetted, and the public will have the chance to talk about the location, et cetera. And so all we're doing is approving in principle that they can go ahead to do this. It's not saying that it's a done deal, so that's why I'm supporting it. Thank you.
Okay. Maybe what I'll do, if you don't mind, Councillor Head, could I get the director to explain what our rights are? We really don't have any, so I think that might cut off some questions. I'll ask the director of planning to explain how the process for approving towers happen in our country.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the.
Just a minute. Hold on for a minute.
Oops. Yeah, thank you, Mayor, for the question. Essentially, SaskTel towers are considered a crown utility. So federal legislation, provincial legislation requires a referral to the city for comment and overall support, and that is taken into very serious consideration by SaskTel, but ultimately we don't have the approving power in our bylaws to formally deny or formally approve an application, a recommendation. However, we will provide comments to SaskTel, and they've been very good with accommodating us as best as they can. So upon approval this evening, they do a very robust public notification, public consultation process, provide ample time to respond with questions and concerns, and they will continue to work with us to find a location that minimizes the impact as much as they can.
Thank you. Councillor Head.
Thank you, Your Worship. I recall getting the presentation from representatives from SaskTel. I mean, yes, we can improve our services in our city, so I mean, in principle, happy to see some of these changes. However, I do worry about some of the consultation process because, like them, they have, I think in the report it states that they're only going to reach out to the people as high as the tower goes in that geographic area. So maybe our comments should be a little bit broader than that to speak to maybe, outside of those city blocks as well. I think it would be helpful. So if they're going to do a robust consultation, it may be involved more people than just living in those few block areas. So that would be my hopes for them. Okay. And then do we have a time and date when that's going to happen?
Go ahead, Director.
Yeah, thank you for the question. I can certainly pass along an informal request to maybe grow or expand the area similar to what we would, which would be 200 meters. I can certainly do that. As per specific times and dates, we have not received formal dates of when it'll be considered, but in the public consultation process, those dates and times will be included with that correspondence.
Okay. Councillor Zepp.
I certainly would have preferred that some public hearings occur before we are asked to support an item like this in principle, so that we can hear and have a more fulsome understanding of what the public think about this. And really, it's the Crown who's seeking that public input. So I would have preferred having the hearings first.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Okay, I'm going to prompt the question. Question is now open and carried. Uh, 11.6, request for funding, Habitat for Humanity. Councillor Head.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm going to move a motion a little bit different than this, what we see here. That the funding request from Habitat for Humanity Saskatchewan, an amount of $30,000 to assist in the funding of affordable housing unit be located at 1315 6th Avenue West, be approved, and that $30,000 be funded from the Housing Reserve.
Okay. Do you want? Oh, I'll get a seconder and then come back to you to explain it. Seconder. Do I have a seconder? Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. Just hang on, Councillor Miller. Councillor Miller.
I'll second for conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just moving this ground. Looking at the report, I mean, this is, account, our reserve has not been utilized in the past a very great deal. We've seen in the financial applications, only 3 projects may receive funding after the affordable housing program with a maximum grant of $30,000 per application. So I realize that they're asking for 15. The project's going to be close to $500,000, it says the report. But also, it looks like there's a common theme tonight. We're not only abating downtown businesses for 100% for 5 years, we're looking at projects for vacant lots as well to assist individuals to develop those projects. We're talking about our city expanding. I mean, this would be just another way to assist with that rapid housing initiative. And I think that's going to be part of my inquiry is where is that initiative at with the federal government? Have we applied for it? Is our city ongoing with it? But for this motion, again, I feel that this is one of the requests we've seen in years. And so good on the Habitat for Humanity, creating spaces, safe spaces for families in Prince Albert. Let's help them out by adding them additional 15,000.
So our policy says 15, so you're recommending that we double it.
Well, it says, the report says that we've given 30,000 out of this reserve before. So I'm just going based on the report. So if we haven't given out 30,000 to another agency before under this model, then I guess my motion would be out of order. But if we are providing 30,000 under those requests, then I would hope to match that with this group as well.
Okay, we'll go to the Director of Planning to comment on the program.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Head, for the program. For the question. Ultimately, the Affordable Housing Reserve Program is aimed at rental units and up to $5,000 per unit, up to 6 units. So the $30,000 that Councillor Head is referencing could be a rental project with up to 6 units, could qualify for $30,000. However, this project in particular does not follow any specific program, so Council does have the jurisdiction in the policy to approve anything that they wish. But it is $5,000 per unit, up to 6 units is what the program states.
And they requested 15,000?
Correct, yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I find odd there. Okay. Any other comments? Okay. Hearing none, I'll prompt a question. Questions now open. And the motion's defeated. So if I could have someone, we'll go back to the original. Councillor Brodnick.
Okay. We'll just wait till she. Okay, I'll move that funding request from Habitat for Humanity Saskatchewan, the amount of $15,000 to assist in the funding of an affordable housing unit to be located at 1315 6th Avenue West be approved, and that the $15,000 be funded from the housing reserve.
Thank you. Councillor Solomon.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll second that motion, please.
Thank you.
And just a quick comment.
Okay.
Just a quick comment. It's a great program. People don't realize that because somebody's getting a house from Habitat for Humanity that they just get a free house. No, the residents that are going to be in that house, they work, they help build, they help with the entire project, and then they benefit from all that work. They learn skills. I know I've had families that I taught that were beneficiaries of Habitat for Humanity, and it makes a world of difference in their lives when they get that house, and the skills that they learn along the way in building that house, and it's skills that everybody should know, in basic little repairs to your house, and they have that. So it's a great program, and I applaud the people that are on this board for Habitat for Humanity, and very proud to make the motion.
Okay, thank you. I'll prompt the question. Well, what happened? We had one. She changed it. This is the only thing I can do about this. Yep, I got it. Oh, it's already open? No. Okay, Vote's now open. And carried. Thank you. Unfinished business? None? Thank you. Mayors and councilors forum. Okay, moving on. Inquiries. Oh, that lit up the board. Councilor Bradley.
Oh, thank you. I just have one inquiry to the Director of Planning and Development, and it's dealing with street signs. I had an inquiry that the resident, and I'm under the same understanding that any street sign that is named, or a street that's named after a veteran has a poppy on it, and is that the policy that we have?
Director of Planning.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the inquiry, Councillor Ogrodnik. Our street naming policy, it since has, it's kind of sitting on a shelf right now, but the street naming policy does flag a veteran section identifying that all veteran signage does have a poppy, yes.
Okay, thank you. And just, yeah, there's some signs out there in my ward, and
Well,
it's been identified that don't have a poppy, so I'll just give the names to
And that's probably because
to the director.
we
Yeah.
had a change in policy,
Yeah,
so that's why I
and
did.
just for other councillors, if you know of a street named after a veteran that doesn't have a poppy, let's just get those signs updated, those street signs, so that we recognize the sacrifices and the contributions that all these veterans made to us and to our lives and to our democracy.
Even though I support vets, as you know, I'm worried the number, because we just changed that policy and the cost, because we have to remove that sign.
Yep.
Because, no? Oh, they'll put a sticker on it. Okay, then I'm
And
with that.
It's something that's worth it, Mr. Mayor, whether it costs money or not.
Don't say that. We don't have money to give away. Okay, Councillor Head.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have a few inquiries today.
Okay.
A couple of them, I'll just start with OSB and our mill. What's happening with that? And we were talking about 750 jobs and coming into our community. We have yet to see any of them. What's happening to the mill? Where does it stand today?
They'll soon be making an announcement. We have to leave it into their court. They have all the licensing and that. We're just waiting for them to make an announcement.
Good. So we'll expect to hear something recent in the relative future here.
Yes.
Homeless forum. Anything to report on that? I know we had, and I seen that in PA Now. That's the only way I knew about it. Why wasn't the rest of the city council invited, especially wards 1, 2, and 3? Especially Councillor and Edwards and I had met with Honorable Paul Marion to discuss some of the issues we're seeing in our city. I thought we would have got an invite from this. Could we get a report on the outcome of that, and what's the direction?
Yes, we'll get a report. We did not do the invitation. It was not our meeting. It was hosted by Brian Hardlock, the Chief of the Grand Council.
Okay.
But we can give you an updated report.
Thank you. Another one, I got an email the other day from the city manager talking about a restructuring. Usually, and I know it's potentially an in-camera item. However, we didn't get any costing on this new restructuring. And I just kind of wanted some information about that rather than an email on the 11th hour and that. So could we get some information
she'll
on that
make a
one
note.
as well? Seniors Utility Manager. Last one, I guess, we had met with the federal government representatives in June. Hillary Morgan, Julia Duncan. I know they may not be in that cabinet anymore, but in that meeting, they talked about the Rapid Housing Initiative. They talked about other grants from the federal government that Prince Albert could utilize. Have we seen any of those? Have we applied for any of that? Will we see any of those come back to our community?
Well, we hope so. I was part of that meeting, and I went away very excited, as you did, because they gave us 3 or 4 programs. We are working, trying to get confirmation from them on the program and how we apply.
Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Mayor Dion. I got a couple of phone calls from the schools wondering where the crosswalk lights are on the 16th Avenue by Silkins. When are they going to be operating and installed?
Thank you. Any others? No? Okay. Moving on, inquiry responses. Oh, we don't have any? Thank you. Notice of motions? Okay, we have none. Motions. We'll move to 7.2. Councillor Edwards, budget transportation of homelessness.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm just going to amend it a little bit.
Okay, go ahead.
That the city of Prince Albert allocate $25,000 to put towards,
Can you just go slow? She's got to type. Sorry.
very sorry.
Okay, you ready?
You don't have magic fingers? I know you do.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Are we ready? That the city of Prince Albert allocate $25,000 to be put towards a transportation program that aims to address an unmet need for individuals who are in the city of Prince Albert and unable to return to their home community. Program that aims to address an unmet need for individuals who are in the city of Prince Albert and unable to return to their home community. I apologize, I should have given this to you in advance. And that's number one. Unable to return to their home community. Yeah. 2, that this item also be referred to the city of Prince Albert Community Safety and Well-Being Coordinator to pursue additional funding and resource opportunities. I think that's resource coordinator, yeah. And I'll speak to that if I can get a seconder.
Seconder?
No seconder. No seconder. It's gonna die.
No? Oh, I'm surprised.
I'll second it, Your Worship.
Thank you. Discussion, go ahead, Councillor Edwards.
Okay, thank you. Worried me a little bit there for a second. I didn't pull this out of the air. Transportation was highlighted at the FCM meetings, or the lack thereof transportation from larger municipalities. It was highlighted, and as a matter of fact, they pointed out STC is one of the examples in the breakout session that has caused people to be stranded here or in other municipalities. This could be court returns, which is critical. We know that that's an issue. People come for court and there's no way home. Release from institutions, correctional centers. Out the door. See you later. No way to get home. And that's a problem. And so what was recommended was the cities need to have a look at coordinating a program to address the need to have people return to go home. Some people come here for medicals. They have transportation in, but there's no way home often. I've talked to people on the street. As a matter of fact, I just saw a gentleman about 2 weeks ago crawling through a garbage can. And I stopped. This was about 12 o'clock at night. And I stopped and I said to him, I said, "Where are you from?" He told me the community. He said, "So what brought you to PA?" "Well, I thought there was opportunities for me. You know, I thought there'd be a house for me. But there isn't, and here I am picking garbage." I said, "So do you have a home in your community?" He says, "Yes." Yes, I think I would if I could get home. They said, well, surely there's got to be a way to go home. And I recommended them to go see PA Grand Council, Urban Services, which he didn't know where it was. And it was quite sad. Picking through the garbage, 12 o'clock at night, a person that wants to go home. So we saw this. This was also highlighted in Chad Nilsson's report, that transportation's an issue. Well, what are we going to do about it? So the motion is to be discussed of $25,000 to be discussed at upcoming budget meeting. I think it's important that we do that. I've got some speaking notes. I'm just going to read them. I'm not feeling 100%, so I'm just going to read direct what I have. So I probably repeated some of this. So there are currently means of transport for individuals to visit our community to access services in Prince Albert, such as medical, taxis, transport provided by corrections and the RCMP. However, transport for individuals to return to their home community is not consistently available and is common for people to be stranded in the city following release from the correctional institution, discharged from court, or following medical stays that are longer than anticipated or do not go as planned. We have spoken to some of these individuals and they want to return. And that's what this motion talks about. It's willing people. We're not just going to load people up in a van and say, get the heck in here. It's got to be a structured plan where we assist in the need to transport people back to their community, where they have some support. Because right now, people think Prince Albert's got all the support in the world. Well, oh my goodness, we're not seeing that the cities in Saskatchewan have that support, because we don't. Pretty evident by the people, the amount of people on the street asking for money every single day or picking through garbage. We don't have the resources to deal with it. There is a service gap when individuals have no money, no home, no family and friends who can provide support. This motion not only provides financial support to develop a program, but also introduces an opportunity through our new Community Safety and Wellbeing Coordinator to work in partnership with other communities, PAGC, the province, Indigenous Services Canada, and agencies across Prince Albert to develop and transport mechanism so that individuals can safely return to their home community if they want to. This can be treated as a one-year pilot project, which will provide a foundation to develop a longer-term sustainable solution to this service gap. I ask for your support in this. This is a small amount to deal with a growing issue in this city, and that is people in need in our city. People are in need in our city. I care. A lot of them are dying on the street. They're cold. They need home communities if they want it. And this is a barrier right now. Unfortunately, we didn't cause the barrier, but it's there. Thank you.
Okay, and I have 3 speakers in the queue. And I'll just acknowledge that at the homeless conference that we just held with all those people, this was also a big discussion, especially with STC, because the north, there's hardly no transportation at all of any type. So it was a major discussion. It's what you said. Sometimes they get stalled in the community and they have no place to go. Okay. Councillor Brodnick, then Councillor Head, then Councillor Solomon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I hear you, Councillor Edwards, and Councillor Cody for moving and seconding this motion. However, you know, we have to stop picking up programs that the provincial and federal government drop. You know, this STC was a program that was introduced by Tommy Douglas. It was one of the first Crown corporations, and that's exactly what it was for, was to provide transportation for people that don't have access to their own vehicles, etc. That's what it was for. It was there to make sure that it doesn't matter whether you are in, you know, Arborfield or wherever you are, that you have that access. And that's what made life fair, and that's what growth for everyone should be about. it was costing the taxpayers of Saskatchewan $9 million a year. That's what the company was losing, $9 million a year. But look at the benefits of that program, STC. And we just can't do that as a city, take the responsibility over of STC. And so therefore, as much as I want to vote in favor of this and hear you, that people that don't have access, I'm going to vote against it. And I would rather us petition through SUMA for the provincial government to bring back STC or a form of STC, or if they want to have it as a private company because they believe in privatization, do it, but subsidize people's ability to access transportation in the province, whether it be going for medical appointments or like I know my mom used to jump on the bus and hit Saskatoon to see her grandchildren. It was great. And you know, those kinds of things were what it was all about. And that was the vision from 1944. And all of a sudden in 2017 or 2018, it was axed for I believe, ideological reasons. It was I think it was the very first Crown Corporation. Councillor Cody knows more about that than me, but I think it was one of the very first Crown Corporations that Tommy Douglas saw the need for in this province. And we can't continue to take on responsibilities of other levels of government. We have the least amount of money and access to money as a city. We're the government that has such a great impact on residents, but we have the least amount of money and the least ability to raise money to pay for all these services. And we're being asked to take on homelessness, you know, mental health, addictions. Those are all provincial responsibilities. And what is the province doing? We have announcements coming out now. Well, there's an election next year, so these announcements are all coming out. You know, like I hope they follow through on these announcements, and they're being genuine and sincere in trying to solve these. And this would be one that would easily solve so many problems. I agree, but again, it shouldn't be up to us to do this, unfortunately. And so I'm going to vote against your motion, Councillor, for those reasons, that we need to pressure the province to start a transportation of some sort in this province for people that don't have access to transportation. Thank you.
Councillor Head.
Thank you, Your Worship. Where do I start? You know, I want to say, like, I don't think this motion is difficult. It's gotten a lot of negative comments back, and I'm not going to highlight a lot of the negative feedback that I've gotten, and not all. I mean, there's been a few other comments that have been positive, but there's a lot wrong with this motion, I have to say. First off, we don't administer bus services in our community. If anything, we contract our own services out. We have issues with our busing today, whether it be with our seniors, with our service center. It seems like that would be a challenge in itself. The optics of this motion is challenging. You know, I think there's a lot of people involved, conversations needed to have with neighboring concerns, neighboring communities that probably would have a say with us dropping off people back into the community that maybe been kicked out for whatever reason, maybe left. Maybe don't have a place to go there either. You know, it seems like we're shuffling around some of the obligations to the point of Councillor Brodnick's, the provincial government. STC, you know, was a huge support for these reasons, to get people to the northern communities, and not just to the north, but throughout the provinces, and every province too. It wasn't just ours. This STF cancellation has hurt us a great deal, and we're seeing it today in the impacts of our city. Hearing that is $9 million to run this SE service with a $1 billion surplus from our provincial government, it makes no sense to me. No sense.
Yeah.
You know, and I know, Councillor Ed, it's why you brought this up, because we've been, you know, meeting with the provincial government, as I mentioned earlier, Honourable Paul Marion in October, trying to find solutions, trying to find ways, but I cannot support this motion. I don't think this is the way to go. This is passing the buck or passing off the problem to potentially other communities, which there's reasons why people are here in our community, whether it be family, whether it be limited service. I won't say no services, but limited services in their own community, trying to find access to services here in Prince Albert. So maybe we need to do more around the service, or lobby our provincial counterparts to do their job, because I don't feel they're doing enough in our community. We've seen it on the streets. one of the things I can speak more on this. I don't want to highlight a lot of the negative, tones that we're hearing on this, but I would say that I would be more support on providing potentially 25,000 to some of the washrooms downtown, potentially porta potties to give people dignity in our community instead of shipping them off. I think that's something I'd support. I'd support warm-up shelters for 25,000 for our community members. I know that doesn't help doesn't change the situation, but it does offer at least people some dignity in our community, and I think that's what's lacking here. So I would support that. I don't support the motion the way it is. I think there's a lot of challenges. I won't labor on a ton of them. I've highlighted a few, but maybe if you'll be willing to change your motion to reflect something else, I just support that. But the way it's written, I'm not going to support this.
Councillor Solomon.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just have a few thoughts in this, and of course, like to thank Councillor Edwards for bringing this motion forward. Homelessness and the effect on the community certainly is a conversation that most residents want to have.
Yes.
It doesn't seem to matter where you go, it's a topic. So Councillor Edwards is bringing forward a possible solution or a part of a solution, and I think that part of the motion is great. I won't be supporting the motion for various reasons. Most certainly $25,000 isn't a lot of money, but there's no details behind how this program would work, how people would get to the different places, how would this transportation be provided. There's no talk of consultation with our partners and surrounding communities, and I just don't see the detail to be able to put $25,000 into something that I don't understand how it's going to be spent. I do see the need, and I think that it's something that can come. I do think that the Community Safety and Wellbeing Coordinator will have a role in maybe some of these conversations that need to happen. But again, I'm just terribly hesitant to commit that kind of money to something that I don't understand the details of how it's going to be spent. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Councillor Kilmer.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I too have difficulty supporting the motion as it stands. I think it's kind of the apple and the cart and the horse. I agree with many of the points that have already been said, but I do think it's a good opportunity, and the thought behind the motion, it's an opportunity for our new City Community Safety and Wellbeing Coordinator, rather than to pursue additional funding, to actually put together a group. It's an identified, perhaps, gap, but we're not 100% sure it's a gap. So I would really support using the new City Community Safety and Wellbeing Coordinator to look into the gap and pull together the community members that could and would be able to establish an actionable plan. So as it stands, I won't be supporting this motion.
Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Mayor Dion. I also won't be supporting the motion. I did receive quite a few phone calls on the situation, and we are the hub of the North. We supply programs and services for everyone. It's $25,000. I wonder why that amount. I don't know why not 50,000. Like, why not 20? Whatever the amount. And I'd like to know if anybody had conversations with our communities, with our First Nations communities, like Chief and Council, to realize exactly what you'd like to send back to their communities. Do they have programs and services to help the people? I don't know that. I'm not comfortable in sending anybody back where I don't know if there's programs and services to help them. I know that we do that here. And I guess another solution would be to get the jails, the penitentiary and the provincial men's jail and the women's jail, to supply rides. I know that they drive around and drive prisoners around, and so they do have that capacity there already. So when they're releasing, maybe the provincial government and the federal government should give a little bit more gasoline money to bring them home. And that's all I'm going to say about the situation.
Councillor Coney.
Thank you, Your Worship. Certainly, this resolution is not perfect. We know that. Everybody knows that. But something has to be started somewhere. You can't just have every detail in a resolution here. What we're trying to do here is get something started. Don't ever think we aren't going to talk to the Grand Council. Don't think we aren't going to talk to the Métis Society. Don't think we aren't going to talk to our neighboring communities and all of the reserve people and their chiefs and councillors. Of course we're going to do that. But you have to start somewhere. Let's not just say, well, let's set up another committee. Well, that's right. If you don't want a damn thing done in this world, set a committee up. You'll be sure to not have it done. That's for sure. That's some nonsense. I think what we need to do is we need to start small like this. Maybe $25,000 isn't the right figure. Maybe 100 is. I don't know what the right figure is, and I don't think Councillor Edwards knows what the right figure is. But you have to start somewhere. So, because we've got some of these poor folks, they sit downtown, stand downtown, walk around downtown, and you know they're lonesome, you know they're in, and they're just as scared as you and I are of them. They're worried about themselves. They're worried about each other downtown, and they'd love to go home to their homes, but they've got no way to get there. Let's help out a wee bit. Just let's out a wee bit. Let's get started on something, not say, well, we're going to throw it out of hand because of this, because of that, because of this, because of that. You know, if you don't start somewhere, you know, you'll never get anywhere. And I suggest you should go vote for this, and let's put the program together. It's not going to start tomorrow morning. It's not going to start next week. We're going to look at it at budget time. But let's do something about this issue, which I think is a big issue for not only the downtown, for the whole community, and probably communities around us.
Thank you. Councillor Edwards.
Yeah, thank you. Just to close, I agree with many of the comments, including STC. I mean, it was good. I mean, it fit the need of our province for decades, and I miss it. I wish it would come back, and I do think that we should send letters to the province. But we all know how long things take. It's going to take. I mean, we had a meeting in June with the federal government, and we haven't got a response back. Well, we're now November on different issues. It's hard. Yes, we could send letters, and I agree with Councillor Cody. We could set up more committees, for sure, but it's going to take more time. And I agree, we need to start somewhere. And why 25,000? As a matter of fact, my initial motion was 50,000 until I started making some phone calls. I called the bus line, private bus line, that said, it's going to be $100 an hour, which I thought was pretty reasonable. They would supply a driver. But I also phoned a local company in town, and I spoke to the owner, and he actually said, I'll sponsor the program. He said, I'll provide a van to help some of these people who want to go home. And I emphasize, this wasn't a forced thing. Can't do that. This was people that want to go home to their community. And yeah, there's logistic issues. BCR, yeah, I understand all of that, that there's banning from communities. And so do the individuals. They know more than anybody that they can't just roll up at home. They know that. I've talked to many of them. I hope others have. But I deal a lot with people that have been banned from their community. In my day-to-day job, all the time. They know best if they can return. So this is a small amount of money. There's a ton of things and logistics that need to be coordinated. I have talked to the Community Safety and Wellbeing Coordinator who supports it and actually recommended that we can add to it. So I have talked to chiefs of our First Nations that have actually gone to people in our community and said, hey, we want to bring you home. We have a house for you. Some won't go. But there are supports at times, not everywhere, but there are supports in home communities. So again, I didn't pull this out of the air. FCM stressed it. I don't want to get into this game, but we're not winning right now. It's the larger municipalities have an increasing concern. And the people on the street who are living on the street aren't safe. They're not safe. They're carrying weapons for why? Because they want to protect themselves from danger at night while they sleep in their sleeping bag and on the sidewalk. So this is just a small amount of money. I didn't want to get into this, but I think the snail pace to go the other direction, which I think we should still do, is too long. So that's why I brought the motion forward. Thanks.
You're welcome. Okay, any other comments? Hearing none, I'm going to prompt the question. This one. Questions now open and is defeated. Thank you. Next is another motion from Councillor Edward. Councillor Zepp, you were going to excuse yourself? Okay, we'll call you right back shortly. Okay, another motion from Councillor Edwards, victim impact statements.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that the city prepare and submit victim impact statements for the 3 people charged in relation to the offenses that resulted in the robbery and shooting of a victim that occurred near St. Mary's School on September 8th, 2023.
Thank you. Councillor Head.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll second that motion.
Councillor Edwards, you want to just give us a highlight?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. And as we all know, this deeply impacted our community. An innocent visitor coming to a school event was robbed and shot. And it made provincial news. I'm not sure it hit the national news. But teams that were to visit our community have considered not coming, have put in rules to their team because they're scared to come to Prince Albert because of this incident. And this is a real shame. This hurts our community, and the people have hurt our community. They hurt the individual, and they hurt the community of Prince Albert. And our people that should be able to come and enjoy our city are now concerned. And I want that reflected in court, and that's why I raised this motion. Thank you.
Okay, I don't see anyone in the queue, so I'll prompt the question. Ooh. Questions now open. Oh, no, it ain't. Now it's open. And the motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Do you want to, oh, Councillor. Okay, we have no one registered for public forum. Number 19, Councillor Kilmer. Okay, this is where we're going to break and prepare to move in camera, so I have to ask all the general public and people that are not involved with the department heads with the matter